Here I'm going to tell you about my trading plan for DJT Trump Media and Technology Group over the next week or so. But first, let's talk a little bit about the background of this company founded by Donald Trump. Trump Media Group IPO'd on March 26, 2024. And the reason when looking at the historical stock chart, you see some bars before that is because DJT was actually a reverse merger with a SPAC called Digital World Acquisition Group. So that's how they did the IPO, is that they took another company and they rebranded it as Trump Media and Technology. When this company began trading, it was trading at an $8 billion valuation. But since then, it's kind of tumbled. If you look at the stock chart, you can see that it's been nothing but downhill. And right now, it's at about a $5 billion valuation when it's here just below $30 a share. And it's actually been a lot lower than that because you can see here the chart has been down as low as $11, $12 a share just last month. Trump Media Group is merely just the holding company for Donald Trump's social media platform, Truth Social. And I would like to show you what Truth Social looks like, but I can't really create an account here without consenting to receive spam on my phone and giving him my phone number. And I don't want to do that, so no thanks. Looking at this article here, which was about the IPO, Trump's Truth Social company has a much higher valuation on a per-user basis than many other similar companies that are much more successful in the social media space. If we dig through the 10Q and 10K filings for this company, we'll see that they generate their revenue purely through advertising on the Truth Social platform. So how much revenue are they making? Well, if we look at the most recent quarter ended June 30th, they made $836,000. So they have less than $1 million in revenue per quarter. And compared to a year ago, which was before the IPO when they were still in the merger process with Digital World Acquisition, they made $1.192 million. So their revenues are dropping on a year-over-year basis. And this amount of revenue isn't even enough to cover the cost of their operations because they have an operational loss. Quite a big operational loss compared to revenue, $18 million. A lot of that comes from general and administration costs, primarily personnel-related costs, including the salaries and compensation for the people working at the company. In this 10Q, it notes a $6 million payment of bonuses to employees at the company. If we pull up stockanalysis.com, we could visualize this a lot better. We'd see this trend in declining revenues, which isn't very much. And it seems like this last quarter, they spent a lot on salaries. This is an interesting development here. Okay, so this is the first quarter of the year for ended 3/31. Their operational loss was close to $100 million. And then the following quarter was $18 million. And most of this seems to be going in operating expenses, selling, general, admin expenses, and research and development for that one quarter. So personnel costs mainly. Searching through this 10Q, I cannot find a headcount for the number of employees that they have. If we look at the annual reporting of how much revenue this company is generating, they're doing about $3 to $4 million per year, and that seems to be declining when you look at the trailing 12-month trend. A successful, busy restaurant could probably generate about this much in revenue. And given the operating losses that this company has, it doesn't look like it's a very good, fundamentally sound business. You kind of want to see these numbers trend in the other direction if you want to look at this as a long-term investment. This isn't the first time that Donald Trump had a company that IPO'd and was public on the stock exchange. Back in the 1990s, his casino company had an IPO using the same ticker symbol, and that company eventually went bankrupt. Donald Trump made over $44 million on this previous company that he had that was public, according to some estimates, but the company lost over $1 billion and it went bankrupt. I really don't expect DJT Trump Media Group to play out any different. And I think that sentiment is very much reflected in the stock price when you look here at the daily chart. If we back out to include just the period post the IPO of DJT, from a technical analysis standpoint, we have this daily chart. And occasionally you have spikes in the price. I guess they could be news events where something looks promising for the company. There's a lot of short covering. There's people who probably actually believe in the long-term prospects. They buy this and they pump up the stock price a little bit, but then it ultimately comes back down. However, this downtrend's recently been broken because if we draw this downtrend line here, we see that at the beginning of October, there's been an increase of volume and it broke this downtrend line. And right now, it looks like it's having a little bit of a bull flag because it came up here to the 30s. It has this consolidation just below the 200-day moving average, and you have all this volume trading. If this flag breaks, it could easily ramp up here to 35 or 40. So what's going on? Well, I think the DJT stock price isn't so much trading on the fundamentals of it as a company, but a lot of people are probably viewing this as a proxy for the chances that Donald Trump gets elected to be the president of the United States again. Something that's developed almost to the day of this downtrend break is that on Polymarket, which is a sports and event gambling and betting platform, the presidential election projections suddenly flipped. Currently, Polymarket is reflecting Donald Trump as having a 60.3% probability of winning the election. Now, some people believe that betting markets could be more predictive of actual outcomes than the pollsters. So many people are seeing this and they interpret it to mean that Kamala is losing popularity and they're feeling hopeful that Donald Trump will win the presidency again. However, I think this level of certainty and optimism may not be quite so solid. First of all, Zero Hedge is reporting that this surge on Polymarket was actually the result of a $30 million bet made across 4 accounts, which might be the same person. So it's quite possible that this surge that we see in Donald Trump's election odds on Polymarket could be manipulation of the betting market. Also on Polymarket, by federal law, U.S. citizens are not allowed to participate because this form of gambling and violates the law. So legally, most people who have an actual stake in the outcome of this election can't really bet on it. This is all or mostly being done by people outside of the United States, except, there might be a few people illegally betting. But for the majority of people who would be affected by this, they can't really participate. So Polymarket is not exactly an efficient betting market. And another thing that I want to point out about the Polymarket stats overall is that when you look at the bets for individual states, it's showing states like Arizona being a complete blowout for Trump, Georgia being a complete blowout for Trump, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, he wins pretty heavy. And it even shows him winning Nevada. So Polymarket right now is very much leaning towards a Trump victory. And I really don't think these elections, when you look at like the past elections that we've had, he lost Arizona in 2020. Probably, I know it's kind of contested by some people, but Georgia was a really close one. And Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, in most presidential elections, those are Democrat strongholds. He won those 3 states in 2016, but that was kind of an unusual occurrence. He'd have to win them again in 2024, and it's probably going to be close if he does. Now, back to looking at this stock chart, I don't feel optimistic about the long-term prospects for this Truth Social media company. I think ultimately it's going to head down, and we're going to see it back at $11, $12, and probably much lower than that. But you need to time such a trade perfectly because, like I say, we have this potential of a bull flag here, where going into the election, if we have more positive news, people equate DJT ticker symbol with Donald Trump and his prospects of winning the presidency. If things start to look even better for him, or even just a short squeeze occurs, this downtrend here is going to break. We could easily see it back up at the 200-day moving average. And by the way, if it gets up to that level again, I'll be looking for a double top right here as a potential short opportunity. But we have about 15 days to the election, and this could rally going into the election period. I don't think we're going to see it higher than, let's say, like 40, this peak right here. But anything could happen. This stock is a pretty wild one. However, ultimately, I think it's going to be an interesting short opportunity. After the election, it's probably going to be a sell the news type of event, regardless of who wins the election, in which case it might be so obvious of a short that it becomes hard to borrow. But nevertheless, I'm going to be looking for intraday weakness in the pre-markets and areas where it stalls out, such as if it arrives here at this 200-day moving average, just 33 to 35 area, and just can't get above a certain level. And then I think it's going to be a very interesting short opportunity. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and if you want to discuss stocks with me and talk about ideas like this, click the Discord link in the video description below. See you next time.